Hello everybody, I'm Raphael Perry, and tonight I'm going to make my first foray into the Grimscar role-playing game. It's a solo RPG, so I'll be playing on my own, and here we have our lovely village of Grimscar. Great name for a village, by the way. Is that really the name of... Yes, it is. Right, set in the middle of a dark and nasty, ominous forest. And we can even see the leafless, crooked forest trees along the top of the map and all the roots dangling down from the bottom. This is a fantasy horror survival RPG in which we explore the woodland for the good of the town. Now, there is a disclaimer, but first of all, this is basically my first time playing. I have watched a couple of videos about a month ago about the game to see if I would be interested in purchasing it and playing it. Then I read the rules, added bookmarks to every relevant bloody thing that needed a bookmark in the entire PDF, which involved using an outdated version of Foxit Reader because you can't add bookmarks in the latest version of Foxit Reader because they want you to pay for that. But you can still download the outdated version and do it that way. It just updates to the new version every time you know, it's a bit weird. So you have to keep reverting it every time you want to edit it. This is the new version, even though it says update, annoyingly. But here we are. Right. There is a warning on the credits page, which has been provided by the author, and I will read this out because it's worth it. Content warning, 18 plus. I'm not sure if that's an American 18 or a British Board of Film Certification 18. The reason I mention this is that American film certifications don't have a 15 certificate. They don't have a 12 certificate either. They have a... Right. So, Americans have U. We have... Okay, so British Board of Film Certification. We have a U, which is universal. We have PG, which is parental guidance, which means you can watch it on your own. Right. U for universal means anyone should be able to watch this without being offended. It should be totally fine. Right. U for universal means... So, PG is... You can watch it with your parents, but if your parents think you're mature enough to handle it on your own, you'll be okay to watch it on your own. But, you know, your parental guidance, they decide. Then we have the rare and extremely, basically barely used 12, which is like, there might be a little bit of swearing, some rough violence, things, but it's like, no, okay, you just... make sure the kids are okay to handle it, It can be a bit scary. Then we have 15, which is like an 18, but not as extreme, right? The difference between a 15 and 18 is the scary, shocking... Right. The scary, shocking, nasty stuff, the swearing, the violence. If it feels gratuitous... like gratuitous gore and stuff, when it's like, okay, you didn't need to show quite that much. That's what kind of pushes it from a 15 up to an 18. And then you get into, like, I think we might have a rare 21 rating as well, before we get into the X's for, like, stuff that's basically porn or snuff movies, So, American film certifications, they have U for universal, then they have PG-13, which means... parental guidance, or you can watch it on your own if you're 13 or older, which is, it's higher than RPG, which is just if your parents think you'll be okay to watch it. And I don't just mean irresponsible parents just leaving you. I mean, if your parents, being responsible parents, know you well enough to reckon you can handle it, that's cool, right? So attaching an age number to parental guidance just completely sort of invalidates the parental guidance and makes it feel like a really weird rating. And Americans like to refer to their games as being mainly PG-13 in terms of what's going to be allowed and what's going to be involved, right? So we have the 15, which is a little more extreme than the American PG-13, but it's basically the same thing. Then we have the 18, where both systems synchronize a bit as well. So I don't know if this is a... Because if this is an American 18, sure. I would be tempted to put this as a 15 myself, right? But maybe there are things in here that I haven't seen which would push it up to an 18. I mean, it's as far as I'm aware, it is a bit scary. It's not Kingdom Death levels of scary and grotesque, right? So I'm not sure the 18 is entirely justified. But if it's an American 18, they don't have a 15 rating, so it would then be justified. So, there are references to the following, and it is advised that you be aware of the following aspects before you play. References, not extreme, we'll see how it goes, right? Body horror. Some of the creatures featured may reflect the human form in a horrific state, for example, warped, broken, or bloodied. Mind control. Some of the horrors featured may use mind control to force their victims to perform gruesome acts. And violence. All forms of violence feature heavily through the way the featured monsters interact with your player, including combat, trauma, and torture. Right, so, first off, you know, these are serious things, and if you're watching and these are a major issue for you, then try not to get too upset by it. I'm going to try not to necessarily dwell too heavily on these things. They do make the monsters nasty and scary, and that doesn't mean that we are here to celebrate or glorify the monsters. It means that we can look at the nasty, horrific elements of the monster and say, thank goodness we are not that thing, right? They are the shadow to the light of our heroes and heroines. They are the thing to which we compare ourselves and say, we are better than this. And with that out of the way, let's dive in a bit, right? I'm going to be skipping over anything that's obviously like, you know, you'll need some dice and pencils and rubbers and, you know, character sheets and stuff. Yeah, things most people who've played a role-playing game already know. I'm not going to go reading any what is a role-playing game description, right? I think we're kind of past that point here. And if not, then hey, welcome to role-playing, in which, in a wonderful world of make-believe, we play games of collaborative storytelling, games of what if, using our imagination and some dice rolls to help decide the way things turn out, if there's a difference of opinions or a point where we go, ooh, what should happen here, right? So, the Grimscar role-playing game is a solo-player role-playing game set in a grim, dark fantasy medieval world. You will explore the Dark Weald, a massive, unending, deathly forest that surrounds the town of Grimscar. There is no escape for its citizens through the dangerous forest. They are being choked, starved, and cursed with an unending winter. Grimscar is your home. You are a Grimscarian, and you must find answers. You will interact with the townsfolk, complete quests, develop your character, and help your people somehow bring salvation to this forsaken place. So here we have the village of Grimscar, and we will be looking into a few things more before we begin. Let's go to... we're going to skip the bit about role-playing and the dreaded journaling, also known as writing things down. Look, it serves its purpose, but there's an entire genre of journaling games where you're supposed to write a whole bloody diary off a few imaginary prompts and you're doing all the work and the game's just kind of a little nudge to get you started, right? And that's great in that it can prompt the imagination, but if not a lot of prompts are being provided and you're supposed to be doing all the work, it's not really much of a game, is it? It's just an exercise for writers or a tool to get you started and then you do all the... Okay. I know that rune. It's upside down and slightly warped. But that's okay, we'll get onto that. So, Grimscar is a small, once prosperous town in the middle of a massive, unending forest known as the Dark Weald. You were born and bred in Grimscar. You are Grimscarian. The deciduous trees of the Dark Weald loom over and completely surround Grimscar, providing an ever-changing backdrop to the secluded settlement. But an unending winter has come, and the leafless limbs crawl across the skyline, the air cold and grey. Haggard crows sit on twisted branches, looking on, their sharp calls grating the frozen air. Clouds of yellow smoke billow in from the tree line, smelling of acid and burnt flesh. Hunting parties never return. Wandering animals do not appear. People are fearful. They will not enter the woods, and people are starving in their homes. The townsfolk are desperate, and many are taking things into their own hands. Small gangs have formed, thieving has increased, and violence is commonplace amongst the diminishing population. The town alderman is calling for volunteers. People are needed to head out and hunt, scavenge, and maintain the peace. You have stepped forward as a volunteer and see this as an opportunity. Whatever your motives may be, you can benefit from acting. Maybe you can make a name for yourself as well as help the desperate people of Grimscar. So what, we're doing this to feed our ego? Grimscar was not a place of violence, though. With little outside influence, there's been no need for militarization. Few people have visited the town in recent years as its decline became more marked. Metal is a rare resource. There are few weapons, and people are not tactically minded when it comes to combat. Facing the threat of the changing forest has been a challenge, to say the least. Although violence is commonplace among the diminishing population. Small gangs have formed, thieving has increased. Grimscar was not a place of violence, although now... So I think the word violence here means, look, there was no one, raiding the town, no oppressive, people threatening to come and invade us from another village or anything, no local lords. We're not on the border between territories, so there's been no need for much by way of a town watch or soldiers to keep enemies at bay. This also means that while criminal gangs have begun to form, and there's been muggings and robbery with violence. It's been fairly amateurish violence. Not a lot of people actually seriously injured yet. Just more beating people up for their lunch money, essentially. What terrible school bullies they are. So, at this point, we are going to be looking for a character, I suppose. And I've given this a bit of thought. We do have names of a number of villagers. And we do know... Where are we? Hang on. I need... this one. History, current situation. There's something about the population. These are not the only members of town, but they are the named ones we are likely to be able to interact with. However, the population has dwindled significantly. And then, of course, there is the forest. So, looking at the names of the villagers, as we can see on the left here, we have Martha Shaw, Berwick Bramwell, Farnham Ravencloud, Foley Eastley, Nerida Greenwood, Gifford Hardwick, Roderick Cedar, Kirby Stout, Amabel Inkbrook, Marlowe Irvine, Lothar Willard and restricted citizens are people we will not initially have access to, but we may gain access to later on. We have Delacour Westcott, Oliver Green, Ivor Charnock, Ranulph Brickenden, Robina Middleton, Maud Flagg, Kingsley Lovell, Thackeray Templeton, and Keslar Brabazon. So looking at these, I'm sensing a fairly modern but slightly archaic form of name, and I'm sensing the American trend of using surnames as first names. For instance, Thackeray as a first name, which is more of a surname really. Kingsley, also more of a surname. Farnham could be a surname equally, right? It's not massive. And we know that this American trend of using surnames as first names comes from the American strong military tradition, in which during their formative years at school, the teachers will often address the children by their surnames rather than their first names, to the point where they identify more of their surnames often than their first names. And at that point, parents begin to forget, the difference between first names and surnames. So, and they just go, oh yeah, I'm going to call my first child something like Jefferson Henriksen the Third or whatever. It's like, okay, you kind of, Jefferson's a surname, obviously, So it's not a bad thing. It's just interesting to observe here, because it makes me think about the culture of this town and what kind of names may be appropriate. I do say we have an Eastleigh, right? With a T that's almost like Jeff Easley. And we have a Greenwood, who reminds us of Ed Greenwood, right? And for some reason, I thought I saw a Parkinson in here as well, but there doesn't seem to be one. And I thought, well, if we got 2 of the Fab 4 here already, where are the other 2? We should have all 4. We should have, Larry Elmore, Jeff Easley, Clyde Caldwell, and Keith Parkinson, right? And I thought, how can we warp those ever so slightly to create a name that fits these trends so much? And this is where Ellie Calder comes in, right? Ellie from Elmore, Calder from Caldwell, which some people pronounce as Caldwell. And she's going to be the heroine of our adventures, if she lives long enough. You arrive at the timber-framed town hall, where you knock on the thick wooden door. It takes a few moments for a stooping man with a bald head to appear. It's Alderman Silas Croft. Oh, another volunteer. Good. I didn't expect anyone else today. Come on in. You follow him into a candlelit room where a long, dark-wooded table stands with some items on it. A cold, notably clean fireplace sits in one wall. The leaded windows frame warped glass. Here, he hands you a parchment, and you roll it out to see a rough map of the Dark Weald. You exclaim that it's mostly empty. Well, that is the state of affairs, I'm afraid. Since this damned winter, we've had few visitors, and some say the pathways have disappeared. Our hunters are all dead or missing. The forest here has changed. That's why you're here, is it not? To help out? You nod, and he hands you a tired-looking sword. That's all we have, I'm afraid, but it is metal, which is not that common in these parts. Oh, and this. He slides a wooden buckler across to you. You frown. I know it's not much, but it's better than nothing. There are other weapons and armour to be found in town. You could speak to Farnham Ravencloud. I think people are hoarding them, though. In any case, what we need are provisions and supplies. He jangles an empty-sounding pouch at you. Bring them here when you find them. You will be rewarded. He tries to smile, but his features form a grimace as he encourages you to the door and you stumble out into the street. The door ajar, he looks at you. I think I knew your parents. Good sort. You'll do well. Maybe you might even get to see Kesler Brabazon if your efforts prove fruitful. He then shuts the door and you are left standing in the quiet street. So we have a character sheet which should look something like... Oh, I didn't actually bother to take a picture of that one. One moment. There we go. Should look something like this. And we have a map tools file with character properties set up, because I went and did that. So we have 6 initial ability scores and then others that are different. So Rage, Hatred and Butcher, Patience, Pity and Hope are scores that are inherent to the character's personality. They are measures of different trends. So Rage is how angry Ellie is. Hatred, how much she hates the world or hates herself. Butcher, how absolutely brutally violent she is at hacking and chopping things up. Patience is a virtue rarely found in women, even less so in men. Pity is like compassion. Is it the compassionate pity or the scornful pity? We go, oh, look at that pitiable thing. Ugh. I suppose we'll find out. And hope, obviously, the shining beacon of hope that helps us stand out in the darkness. Survival. Sure. Survival is for getting about in the wilds, surviving natural dangers and encounters. Charm is obviously how good we are at persuading people and charming them and being nice and friendly. Reputation is how well known we are in town, what the people think of us, how well they think we're doing. Warmth is a measure of the garments that we wear and how warm we are, because obviously it is cold out there in the cold dark forest. As we see, we have a tunic and some cloth boots. So I'm going to imagine they're not like foot wraps, but rather like thick felt boots. That they aren't the warmest, but they'll do. Let's go back up here. We also have other things on here that will become apparent and important later on. Also, importantly, there is no limit on the amount of items we may carry, the limit being whatever we can fit in this box. Now, obviously, I don't have a physical character sheet in front of me, so my inventory limit will be, don't take the mickey, right? I'll just go, does it make sense for her to be carrying this much? If not, ooh, okay, you know. Back over here. So, Rage, Hatred and Butcher reflect your anger at the state of the world, and Patience, Pity and Hope represent the desire for good to prevail. Now, Rage, Hatred and Butcher can tend to increase, whereas Patience, Pity and Hope tend to decrease. There is no current and maximum score for these. They are just a single score. They go up, they go down. There's no temporary number. It's always, this is what you have. Any change to these is permanent. Pretty much the same for the others as well. We have Okay, do I need to change that? We have combat dice and reserve dice. As we all know, die is singular, dice are plural. And in campaign properties, one moment, I had these set up so the display name would just be combat and reserve. Obviously that hasn't quite done what I wanted, so there we go. Oh dear. Properties. So why have reserve dice not... Oh, is it only changing one at a time? It is only changing one at a time. Okay, that's mildly bothersome. Alright. Basic. Grimscar. Properties. No, it's still stuck on reserve dice for some reason. Right. Well. Let's try now. There we go. Okay. It is possible to get more than one combat and one reserve die. It's possible to get 2 dice. But most people will just have 1 and start with 1. So we'll see how it goes. So, survival, charm, reputation, and wear. So, wear is obviously currently 0, and the token mouse over doesn't display properties of 0. So if I put a 0 in there, nothing. Oh no, it is. It used to not display 0. Okay. It used to display 0 as a blank and hide the line. So, survival shows how good you are at naturecraft and making things. Charm reflects how effective you are with people, and reputation shows how you are considered in the town. Survival starts at 4, charm at 2, and reputation at 1. Then you have wear, which reflects how physically you are holding up to the pressures of the world. This starts at 0, and for every 10 points of wear you have gained, your minor wounds death line drops by 1. So, we can receive minor wounds and major wounds. If we get 10 minor wounds, we're dead. If we get 3 major wounds, we're dead. Those are called death lines and are represented on the character sheet. So, for instance, we would have 10 in here and a 3 in here. I have not included the death lines in campaign properties. I will track them on my notes here. And the minor wounds and major wounds are separate. So we could literally have 9 minor wounds and 2 major wounds and still be alive. It's not as if a major wound counts as 3 minor wounds or anything like that. So there isn't a sort of health total we're working towards. It's 2 separate pools, whichever one you happen to reach first. Obviously, we would prefer to reach neither. In terms of equipment, we have our blunted sword, which is interesting. That means it wasn't created as a blunt training sword, but it's the edge is just worn down over the years, and it's dented and notched and battered. It's in a terrible way, and we could definitely do with a better piece of equipment. And we have our wooden buckler, which gives us +1 to armor rolls, which can potentially protect us from damage. For all we know, it's probably something like a little barrel lid or something. Except a barrel lid would be too big for a buckler. A buckler is very small. Let's clear this to clear those error messages from loading the campaign. Here we go. And here we have the Pathfinder and 3.5 framework so that we can utilize the dice box as and when it's needed. I'm going to briefly touch on quests. There are a lot of quests we could do. We have the Alderman's quest, and I should list... Oh, there is something else I should do as well. Yeah, I'm going to pop it up here, actually. So, there are many quests we can gain, but we can only have one quest at a time. One active quest. Completing a quest often requires going out and finding something in the forest. If we have additional items, more than we need, then any extras get turned in on the Alderman's quest table for rewards, as if we'd either donated these items to the person who hired us in the first place, and they say, go out and get us one of this thing, and we come back with 3, and they go, oh wonderful, that's excellent, we'll give you a few extra rewards. Or we turn those extra rewards into the Alderman, and he says, oh that's great, I'll reward you for this. Either way, it will be the same result, but we're rolling on the reward for his table here. Now, the Alderman's quest is a default quest. It's the one we do if we haven't picked up anything else to try and achieve. And of course we know the Alderman is a sort of pseudo-inherited title. It literally means the older man, as in the oldest man in the village, right? The head man of the village, essentially. But it's a kind of... It's less powerful than a town mayor, but more respected and traditional, and has some duties and responsibilities that the town mayor doesn't have. It's a bit archaic, and not every town has one. In fact, most do not. But it's an interesting fact. The village of Grimscar doesn't have a town mayor at the moment. They used to have one. They used to have a mayor and an alderman, but now no one wants to be mayor, and the alderman's just kind of looking after things as best he can. Now, I will look at this section here before continuing. But essentially, while we could go pick up another more complicated quest, I think we'll focus on the Alderman's quest for now, because it's the default starting quest, and we can pick up anything else as we go. Yeah, go away, sea cleaner. I know what you're trying to delete, and it's not stuff that can necessarily go at the moment. Oh, joy. Right. So we could go pick up lots of different quests, right? There's a whole load of them. We could go visit all of the approachable citizens and then decide what we want to do. I'm not going to do that initially because that does give us lots of lovely options. But for now, I'd like to try the basic intro quest, see how it goes. All right. Theoretically, with extremely good dice rolls, we could search this inner ring in a couple of days. It's probably going to take more than that, okay? The forest is divided up into 3 groups, 3 concentric circles. As you can see, there's the very near section of the forest, the further away section, and the furthest. And they are, the forest, the dark forest, and the savage forest. And they grow progressively more dangerous as we head further away from town. And I may need to add in a second map. I'll just do it now anyway, what the hell. Here is our permanent features map. And I'll slap it in there, drag it up. And it's just here, next to this one. It is an identical map. Because as we explore the map, we will find various features and encounters. When we return to town, the forest shifts and warps and resets, and everything we discovered goes away except for permanent locations, permanent encounters, which will be marked on this map. And when we go out again, they stay on this one. So essentially, when we return to town, we erase everything that's not a permanent location. So this just will track our permanent locations. This will track our non-permanent. And we're also supposed to like keep a whole map key. Right? So we just like jot down numbers or letters and write things in it. We have a map key and a permanent features map key. Right? Now, with map tools, we have the ability to write something on a hex. There we go. And we might even be able to... No, we can't drag it around. But what we should be able to do is delete it. There we go. I'm not sure how big labels can be, but I can put multiple words, maybe, above each other. So we should be able to mark hexes without having to keep... And if the worst comes to the worst, I'll just drop numbers and letters and, you know, jot them down in here on the character sheet. Because why not keep all the notes in one place? So, looking at the town itself. Grimscar is a small town made up of overhanging timbered buildings in a land that is plentiful in wood but lacking in metals. It is located in the middle of an unending forest known as the Dark Weald, and it's part of a network of villages and towns called the Bowerhood. You have lived here all your life. You are Grimscarian, and you have been told about the ancient history of Grimscar. Grimscar was established upon a mineral spring that was believed to have healing properties. It was discovered in the deep wood by a huntress named Eleanor of Annabel, who was tracking a golden bow deer, a species now extinct. She stumbled into the clearing and saw the spring, pitched a camp, and ended up remaining for weeks. Her companions joined her there, and soon it became a meeting point. There was a natural rock formation where the ground opened up and revealed the revitalizing pool. It was from this savage wound-like rock formation that the town derived its name. Foresters and hunters gathered, and soon the settlement was a collection of tents and temporary shacks. It took a few years, but the pool became overused and dried up, but excavation revealed a seam of copper running through the rock. Miners and prospectors appeared, and the village grew up, revitalized after threatening to stall early in its development. Other villages and hamlets were being established, and soon the Bowerhood was formed and appointed leaders, later aldermen. Men or women, apparently, doesn't mind. So later aldermen met to discuss trade routes, all based around the supply of copper. Grimscar became the central town, and its people prospered. Everyone knows that decline came quickly, though. The copper seam dried up, and within a few months all the related businesses and couriers were gone. Now, a decade on, resources are thin on the ground. Trade routes have gone quiet, and those who venture out with wares never return. There is one final well in the town, but it is low, and the people now collect rainwater to boil. The desperate population rely on brambles, rosehips, crabapples, and anything else they can to survive. And then we have a bit of a description of the forest. You know what? It's just a page. Let's go with it. The Dark Weald is a place of mystery. Many creatures once lived in harmony beneath its thick canopy, and its bounty supported the Bowerhood. But when the recent winter came, silence fell upon the fallen leaves, and the roads and pathways disappeared. Since this unending winter began, the common folk speak of a curse that is slowly killing the forest. Within the freezing fog, strange animals have been seen. Black wounds on trees are causing concern, and the strange calls echoing through the darkness wake the townsfolk in the night. Surrounded by the ever-encroaching forest, there is little the citizens of Grimscar can do unless they risk venturing into the darkness. In recent months, long black wounds have been seen on some of the older trees of the Dark Weald. Even from a distance, some say that they writhe and churn as if alive. No one has seen them up close and lived. Others say that they have a mark of some demon or monster, a hole gouged by infected claws of a rotting fruit body of a bracket fungus. I'm not sure this claim that no one has seen him up close and lived is true. I think that may be part of this previous claim that even from a distance some say they arrive and churn as if alive, and that, but it is a separate sentence, so not necessarily. If we see wounds on the tree bark, yeah, sorry, I've only been awake for like an hour maybe, then it may have an effect upon our mind or body. So most of the townsfolk don't believe in magic particularly, but they become a little superstitious. There's still, the older people, they've got their lucky charms and talismans to hope protect them. People have been marking vellum, not parchment. So vellum is made from animal skin. I can't remember if it's cow skin or sheepskin. But in this case, in this game, it can sometimes be made from the skin of humans and marked with runes, words, images, and imbued with magical property which can be used. They're basically single-use scrolls that burn up and singe and turn into ash on use. And most of the monsters, people just refer to the monsters as demons. There's a claim here that the word demon has no religious connotations, but I find that a bit hard to believe. Seems a bit SJW. And the demons do have associations with folklore in this case, so they are, horrid, nasty monsters of the forest. So we are going to head out into the woods. Oh, and I was going to read the thing about the townsfolk just briefly to get an overview before heading out. Because one thing I noticed was a lack of shared surnames, and I wondered if these were the only remaining townsfolk. But one of these has a named wife who is not on the list, and we know there are small criminal gangs forming, gangs of ruffians in town. So there's a few families left, and these are just the more notable people we can interact with. Many families who once lived in the isolated town of Grimscar for generations, only knowing life in the forest, have moved on or disappeared. Now only a few hundred people remain. Several known figures remain stoic, despite the stench of decay. Martha Shaw is the last of her line and the local herbalist. Berwick Bramwell comes from a line of carpenters and Kirby Stout the Fletcher. What about Kirby Stout the Fletcher? Does Kirby Stout the Fletcher also come from a line of carpenters? Or does Berwick Bramwell come from a line of carpenters and from Kirby Stout the Fletcher, who's also an ancestor of Berwick Bramwell? I hope to find out in the future. Amabel Inkbrook, named after the founder of the town, Eleanor of Amabel, no doubt. Not Annabel, but Amabel, is the local butcher, inheriting the role from her father, and she works closely with Marlowe Irving, the rat catcher. Lothar Willard is the last town guard, and there is also the old armory in the basement of the clock tower run by Farnham Ravencloud. There are some officials remaining who work in the town hall. Alderman Silas Croft runs the town, seeing as no one wants to be mayor, and he has help from Roderick Cedar, the town clerk. There is also Foley Eastley, the market foreman, and Harper Fairgrove, the market hand. In the building next to this is a small infirmary run by Sister Nerida Greenwood. Belief has taken many forms in recent times, and Gifford Hardwick is the resident priest, but there are naysayers led by Maud Flagg, as well as the Inner Circle, a heavy-handed group led by Oliver and Arabella Green, husband and wife, who are determined to manage resources in the town in the name of the greater good. There are hidden cults, doomsayers, and lone protagonists who have either gone mad or been driven by evil intentions. These dangerous figures operate out of sight in the shadow of the forest. Some people are approachable and have quests for you to complete. They are listed in the approachable citizens section below, and you can browse these and pick a quest unless you decide to work for the alderman and gather supplies. Also, all their names are in bold in this section here. Others can be visited once particular quests are completed, or if you have a high enough reputation and are listed in the they are listed in the restricted citizens section on page 51. So I'm going to close the restricted citizens section of the tab there for now. When I went through and bookmarked for restricted citizens, I noted that their sections don't begin with here's your unlock conditions to meet this person, here's your unlock conditions to meet this person. So we will be told when we can approach them. Additionally, one more thing in character creation, if I can nip back up here, is former profession before we became an adventuring person. Before we volunteer to help the town out, we get to roll on this table and see what we used to do. And it's a D8, so let's just roll away. A 1. So, okay. Ellie was a butcher. Few carcasses come into town, and there are no animals to kill. Rats don't count. So, +1 to butcher. She is used to chopping up dead things. Not, I think it might have been, if she was a jailer, I might have made her a man. Maybe she'd be someone who cleaned the prisoners and, feed them, look after them, but she might be a stern. So she's used to a bit of gristle and gore, right? So she started as a butcher. Let's see what she becomes. For now, we're going to head out into the forest. Now, travelling 1 hex in the forest takes about an hour, and we're allowed to have up to an 18-hour adventuring day. But if we're out of town longer than that, we won't make it back to town alive. The dangers of the forest are too great. So, as we venture out, we need to be able to make our way back. So we need to be careful how far we venture from town. Now, with 18, that's still quite a lot. We can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So quite a bit. Yes, so we go 3, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah. Quite a bit. So it does mean, so we're not going to have safe staging camps necessarily in the forest, although that could be a permanent location we discover. Ooh, good point. So reaching into the furthest regions, we could only spend a little time there before coming back again. I'm going to go up to the north because it feels good to be going up. Not saying it's going to be great, but hey, you never know. So Ellie heads out into the wood, and we're going to roll on a forest table. For the normal forest, it's percentile. She heads out of town, and as the tree branches close in overhead, and it feels very ominous and dangerous, what does she find? Torture scene. Oh no. This is our first thing out of town. You notice a woman kneeling at a tree stump. As you move closer, you see her palms have been nailed into the top of a stump. Ah, we've got a D6 roll. Okay, wonderful. Now, we're not... I presume there's a lot of dried blood around the nails, and we're not sure how recently she was nailed to it. let's get that roll, because a 5. Okay. Her head whips up and she begs for your help. You release her hands and she thanks you. She gives you a small wooden box and inside is some moss. Roll on the unusual moss table and gain 1 reputation as she returns to town. Ellie, you've done well. Unusual moss is a D10. Okay. Seven. We have Stinger Moss. You can rub this on your weapon and do an extra minor wound for 1 successful hit in 1 combat. Now, I don't think that means for everyone successful, it's going to be just for 1. So, we basically got stinging nettles, okay? I'll put it in a box. It's in a box. And we should mark this place. Boop. Ah. That's unfortunate. Okay. It's off center. So we go boop. Do I need to go a little further to the... Oh, that fits in. That's good enough. There we go. Right. Let's head a little further away from town and see how things develop. So, while we could theoretically explore quite a lot, realistically, we're probably not good enough to do that just yet. And hey, weren't we supposed to get reputation as well? There we go. There's our reputation increase. I've put it on 1. I haven't put it on the other. There we go. Right. So back on the good old D100s, we got a 31 for the forest table. 31's going to be a page or 2, isn't it? I could probably mark the individual pages, so this would be like 17 to 28, essentially, you know. Right. Trap trees. This area of the forest is densely packed. Oh dear. Ah, we get to roll to see what kind of trees. Oh yeah, so it's a deciduous, not evergreen forest, and it's winter. So a 4. Iron beech trees. Well, I know what silver birch is. Don't know what iron beech is. No matter what type of tree, there is something strung between 4 of them. It's an old trap made of rope, thorns, and some kind of sticky tar. We'll roll again. A grim-looking man is caught up. It's a Mucil Thrall. Black tar seeps from a creature's eyes and nose as it turns to you and rips free of its bonds. Defend yourself. So now we're in combat. Okay. Let's put tree trap. Now, we have a monster, and I put all the monster stats over here. The Mucil Thrall will be there, so I'm just actually going to grab Ellie and drag her over here onto the Mucil Thrall. Reset vision, and we'll pop her up here. Alright. So, black tar seeps from the creature's eyes and nose as it turns to you and attacks. So, just like Ellie, Vermukil Thrall has a combat die and a reserve die. It will die at 4 minor wounds or 2 major wounds. Now, these trigger abilities will occur if it rolls these exact numbers on its combat die. When we fight, we roll our combat die and try to roll higher than the opponent. After that, we may boost our roll with our reserve die or one of our ability scores. We can only boost with an ability score once in a fight. We can only boost with a reserve die once in a fight, right? Our reserve is just once per battle. Our enemy will only use their reserve die if they are losing, and the difference between our scores is half their reserve die or more. So in this case, with a d6 in reserve, our foe will only use its reserve die if it's 3 points below us or less, right? If it's 4 points or more, it's going to say, stuff that, we ain't doing it. Save reserve die for later. It can take a lot less damage than us if we use an ability score to boost. We aren't rolling anything, we're adding the full ability score, but there are consequences for doing so. And since this is our first fight, and it's not necessarily the hardest fight we're ever going to encounter, but I think because it's giving us time before it attacks by wrenching itself free of the trap, we're going to open that box of stinger moss and rub it on the weapon. And really wish we had, we'll like wrap our fingers in the edge of our tunic or something so that we don't get stung ourselves very much. So our first hit will cause an extra minor wound. So let's drag the dice box over to the side here. Ellie will roll her d6 and she gets a 6. That's a very good start, bearing in mind that this is her first time ever wielding a sword, but she has used some kind of cleaver or knife to chop up dead bodies. Probably slicing with a knife more than hacking with a cleaver, because metal implements are rare in town. And this is a metal sword, although it's bloody blunt. Maybe we can get someone to sharpen it in town at some point. Although, if there's a lack of... if metal is not that common, then someone with a whetstone and the knowledge to use it might not be as well. So, Vermukil Thrall rolls a 6 as well. That is a draw. On a draw, we just fight a new round. You know what? If I push it with my reserve die now, I get to inflict 2 minor wounds. And if I don't, the foe may begin to injure me, and that is bad. I don't like wasting things this early, but I want to save... no, I want to save my reserve die for when I lose a round. We fight on. It's big. It's not that big. It's scary. It's nasty. There's black tar seeping out of the body. She's not that eager to waste her reserves of vital energy just yet. And she's an inexperienced combatant. This is like her first proper fight. There might have been playground fights as a child. Not that there was a playground. There probably wasn't even a school. So, new round. Ellie rolls another 6. And Vermukil Thrall rolls a 4. Okay, I was a bit worried there. We were starting to get sticky dice. So, 6 beats a 4. It's a minor wound. If we doubled the foe's attack score, it would be a major wound. And, because we got the nasty stinging nettles rubbed all over our blunt sword, it goes to 2 minor wounds. I should probably track those somewhere. If we get major, they'll go on the next line down. Right. The Thrall is now wounded and fights on. New round. We get a 4, it gets a 4. That's a draw. I am happy with a draw. I don't get hurt. Struggle continues. Ellie gets a 6. The Thrall gets a 5. That pushes, as we slice it again, well, sort of batter it with a sort of slicing motion. It's nearly defeated. However, we roll a 3. It rolls a 1. Oh, we double. That's a major wound. That's actually bad. Because it's now 3 minor, 1 major, which doesn't make 4 minor, so it's still in the fight. So we roll a 5, it rolls a 4, we get a minor wound and put it out of its misery. And put us out of the misery of having to face the horrific creature. Oh, did it? It didn't roll any 2s. It rolled a 4, a 1, a 5, a 4, and a 6. And that 2 was for the contents of a trap. Okay. I need to pay more attention to trigger abilities and not forget them. And now we get to roll on the body search table as we search its body and find what it has on it. It's D12. Excellent. We don't get to use those often enough. Unless we're playing Hero Quest. And that's a wonderful game, by the way. Much better than Warhammer Quest. You touch the body and it suddenly freezes over, ice magically crawling across the corpse. If you have a 7th warmth or lower, gain 1 wear. We've only got 5 warmth, so unfortunately... got a point of wear there. So she found nothing useful at all. Let's drag her back onto the map and refresh vision. Now, at this point, we could head deep into the dark forest or stay in the near forest. What the hell are you doing there? Go away. I've never seen that before. That is weird. Obviously, that's to do with zoom distance. Anyway, the supplies the alderman wants for the town are a tier 1 quest item. Tier 1 is found in the forest. Tier 2 quest items are found in the dark forest. Tier 3 are found in the grim savage forest. So let's stay close to town, looking for supplies, and head over this way. And we get a 67. Oh, that seems a bit familiar, doesn't it? Okay, let's see what we got. Scraped bark. Okay. The trees here have been rubbed and scraped by something. The bark is scratched and frayed. You look closer and find something from behind. A piece of loose bark, and we get to roll a d6. A 5. Someone has tucked a copper coin behind the bark. Maybe for luck. Excellent, we'll take that. We'll mark it. Pat it and prick it and mark it with B, you know. Really? Come on, you know. You know. Pat a cake, baker's man. Bake me a cake as fast as you can. Pat it and prick it and mark it with B and put it in the oven for baby and me. Look, it's a scary horror game. Nursery rhymes are apparently really scary. People out there somewhere are scared of clowns, you know, so let's... Even though clowns are not even remotely scary. Unless you're stupid. Or someone intentionally makes the clowns really scary horror clowns. But if you just go, all clowns are scary, then you've just heard Stephen King say it and think it's a popular thing to say. Sorry, but I don't agree with people who say clowns are inherently scary. They're not. Even with people who say, but the clown's makeup is supposed to look like a skull with the... You know, the white makeup and the black around the eyes and the, yeah, it's just, no, just leave it, mate. Just, they're funny. They're not scary. They're funny. Right, further into the woods. Oh, we got a copper coin. Excellent. So the currency of the village is copper coins because they had a little copper mine at one point. Half coins are a copper coin cut in half. They're worth half as much as a copper coin. And wooden tokens are little square wooden tokens that are worth half a half coin, so a quarter of a copper coin. What have we here? We have a 94. Well, that's going to be different, isn't it? Frozen mist. Oh, dear goodness. Okay. Right. Okay. This area is shrouded in frozen mist that chills you to the bone, and before you realize it, becomes unbearable. If you have warmth 8 or lower, gain 1 minor wound, so that's really cold. You sense there is something in the mist, and we'll roll d6. You may add 1 patient point to the roll. We might, but patience would then reduce to a 4. And it's probably good. But this early on in our adventuring career, it might be worth just taking the random roll and seeing how it goes. Or we could blatantly read this and see why it's better to get a good roll. However, we also have our 1 minor wound from the cold. It was very, very cold. And also that's why I went with the AU on Calder, to make it colder, like the coldness of the forest. Okay, that's a monster. That's okay, yeah, no, I can see lose 1 hope and 1 patience. Well, since a 3 will cause us to lose patience anyway, and a monster jumps out to attack, so 1 to 3 is a fight. 4. Uh-oh. Okay, yeah, we'll add a point of patience. Why does being patient? So our patience is reduced to 4. Let's hope it doesn't get too low. Spending a point of patience in battle involves rolling on a consequence table, right? Patience. Yeah. So, back up from the dark forest to the forest. Was I looking at the wrong table? We got a 94. Glyph tree. Wait, hang on. I might have been looking at a table for a nastier, darker part of the forest there by mistake somehow. So let's double check this before it gets really bad. Yeah. Yeah, I was looking at something for the dark forest, so I get a completely different encounter. That's great. You know what, though? We'll just go this way because it's quicker. In which case, I will have that point of patience back. And patience is not survival. There we go. Glad I caught that. Wow. That was on the brink of being very nasty. So, 1 tree amongst the many in this area has been stripped of its bark, and symbols and glyphs have been carved into the softer, smoother wood. You know this to be a glyph tree and have seen one before, but this example has many more markings, and some are rough, bloody scratches, as if scored by fingernails. You place a hand on the trunk and it feels warm. You can carve your own rune if you wish to, but only pick 1. Pick one of the following. The Trutina glyph, gain 1 patience, or the Miseratio rune, gain 1 pity, or the Ralic glyph, gain 1 hope. When you pass through this hex again, the glyph tree is nowhere to be seen. Meaning it is not a permanent location. I think Ellie should... You know what? As a butcher who used to chop things up, she could do with a little more pity and hope. But I think the patience, for now, she probably was pretty good patient waiting for things to cut up, because there wasn't a lot of meat to be butchering, to be honest. So yeah, we'll give her that point of patience. And if we find another glyph tree at a later point, that will be excellent. Now, we have explored 1, 2, 3, 4. So we are way, way early in the adventuring day. We'll head to here and roll. A 72. Excellent. Having carved her glyph on the tree. In fact, oh, another torture scene. Really? Okay, well, right on the brink of town as well. Can I just copy this and paste it here? No, I can't. Okay, fine. Worth checking. So, another woman with her hands nailed to a tree stump. But what is it this time? A 6. Another woman who we release and okay. It's almost as if some kind of nasty cult in town has been nailing women's hands to tree stumps on the brink of town to feed monsters in the hope the monsters won't come into town and endanger the townsfolk themselves. We get another box of moss. Unusual moss at that. And what kind of moss could it be? You're kidding. More stinger moss. Well, I haven't taken it off yet, so clearly the game just wants to acknowledge the fact that I still seem to have it. With that out of the way, let's head... Oh, there we go. What the hell, Ellie? Oh! I get it. It didn't select the torture scene tab, but selected Ellie to copy and clone instead. There we go. And put her right on top of herself so I didn't notice that it hadn't done anything. Because it had. So moving swiftly on to explore the forest, we get a 7. Very low. Not an encounter we've had before. Excellent. Spiny vines. The trees here are covered in an unusual plant that you know has only recently appeared in the forest. The thick black vine has huge spines running along its length. Something has been caught in them, and we will roll to see what it is. A 2. You are drawn to the thick black vines. Roll a d6. If it is higher than your charm, you wake a few moments later, your arm painfully stuck on the vine. Gain 1 minor wound as you pull free. Well, unfortunately, our charm is only a 2. So, yeah. She feels strangely attracted by the vines and advances towards them, peering at them to see them close up. She's never seen them this close before. feels a bit drowsy and woozy, as if there's something strange in the air. And when she regains consciousness, ow! Prickly spiny vine stuck in her arm. That's another minor wound. Now, after a fight, we are allowed to use one of our survival points and one of our rations to sort of bandage up a wound and make an improvised dressing and heal our minor wound. Technically, we're not fighting. So, arguably, I can't do that now. And it's only 2 minor wounds. I will press on and see what we can find here. Ooh, a free. Really? A tied up man. There is a man tied to one of the trees here. The air is thick and you smell glue. You approach and see he is still alive but unconscious. He is dressed in merchant clothing and his hands are bound in a sticky black butt glue that you realize has dripped down along the tree bark. Roll a d6. Okay, let's do that. A 2. His body begins to writhe and black blood showers you. Gain 2 wear. The form rips from the tree as a sin fanatic, as its head erupts in dark flame. Defend yourself. Sin, I presume being short for cinder. Could have been nicer. 2 wear is bad news. We should have 1 there already. Yep. Okay. There we go. And we have a fight on our hands. I will... There we go. So C for sin. Seed monk. Seed is in surrender. Our sin fanatic is over here. There we go. So the former merchant's eyes are pools of agony as black fire erupts from the back of his head. And he wants to hurt us badly. Okay, well, Ellie's got her sword and her crappy wooden buckler that she hasn't had to use yet, fortunately. It's possible the foes may be just as inexperienced in battle as herself. So, let's fight. Ellie rolls a 2. The Sin Fanatic rolls a 1. So we get a minor wound on it, and I am happy with that. Here we go. It's a bit harder to kill than the previous... Well, no, it takes... Was the other one free major? I can't remember. Anyway, we fight on. Ellie rolls a 5. The Sin Fanatic rolls a 5. That's a draw. When it rolls a 5, we instantly trigger this, regardless of whether it wins or loses the round. Burning Touch. Roll a d6. And we roll a 4. Gain 1 wear. That is a bit unfortunate. Feeling the wear and tear of the world, and I don't know if there's an easy way to reduce that. So there we go. And it's a draw. I think we'll fight on and not risk our reserve die just... Wait. It's a draw. So it's within 2 of winning. So it will use its reserve die. And it rolls a 4. Which means its new total is a 9. Now, our armor can protect us from some wounds. We've got a 5, so it's not double our 9 for a 10, so it's only a minor wound. I will take the minor wound. Now, at this point, we would make an armor roll to try and protect ourselves with our buckler. However, to make an armor roll, we would roll our combat die and add +1 for the quality of our buckler. And with that, the highest we could get is a 7, which isn't going to beat a 9, and we'd need to beat the enemy's combat roll to prevent the wound. So, we have been wounded by the Sin Fanatic, and we're feeling the worn down and tired a little bit. It's all building up. Ellie rolls a 6, the Sin Fanatic rolls a 4. Now, it is 2 lower than our total, but it's already used its reserve die, so it can't use it again. So we inflict a second minor wound on the Sin Fanatic. This is going to get rough. Ellie rolls a 5, Sin Fanatic rolls a 1. That's a double, so we get a major wound. That is excellent, because that can end the fight much sooner. Ellie rolls a 1, the Sin Fanatic rolls a 2. That's double our total, and that would be a major wound. We do not desire a major wound, as that will mess us up a lot. So, we will defend ourselves with our buckler, because 2 + 1 is a 3. We defend ourselves and don't take the wound. That is excellent. If it had been a more, if it had been a higher rolls with a difference like that, I would be looking to boost. So we remove our modifier. Our small wooden hand-gripped shield has defended us. It's like the size of a saucer, a buckler, maybe a very large saucer. Ellie rolls a 2, the Sin Fanatic rolls a 3. Now we will use our reserve die to add 2 more to that, so we go up to a 4. It's on a 3. We inflict a minor wound, and the fight continues. Ellie rolls a 6. The Sin Fanatic rolls a 2. A second major wound is inflicted, and the Sin Fanatic is defeated. And we get to roll on the body search table. So far, we have not had a lot of fortune finding the items that we seek. However, that may be about to change. Body search, D12. You never can tell. A 5. There are a D6 wooden tokens on the body. It was on fire! Clearly, 5 of those wooden tokens burned up, and there's only 1 left available for us. Okay. Oh dear. Charred remains of tokens. Right. So, we will go to this hex next from this one. So we have 3, 6, 7, 8. We are halfway through our adventuring day, basically. 28. Okay. What we got? We have almost too far, right? Fallen Scouts. This area is dense with hawthorn and brambles, and when you stumble upon a body lying on the ground, you nearly trip over it. Then you see another. The 2 bodies have been repeatedly branded. Their flesh is seared and exposed. They carry nothing, but you recognize them as scouts from the village, probably sent on to find a way through the dense wood. One you know by name, Irvin Yardley. You look around nervously and roll a d6. Oh dear. Well, first off, we will mark this. And then we will roll that d6. A 4. And we'll ignore the stupid song that was popular on the internet a while back. The beast that did this is gone. You can also search for brambles and find enough berries for 1 ration worth 3 wooden tokens. You can spend a survival point and also find a trail to a stash one of the scouts must have hidden. In it is a pot of healing balm with 2 doses. That sounds worthwhile. So, now, I'm listing this ration separate because it has a resale price. And we will spend that point of survival. And I imagine that is not a potion, but a literal pot. Because a balm is like an ointment. And we... what was it? Spent a point of survival. Down to 3. There we go. And I think I would like to use one of... Wait. So first off, where am I going to find information on that? Will it be found within? Will it be here, or will it be? Yeah, will it be on one of these tables, or will it be in town at the marketplace? Let's go look at the market. Did I only do market clothing and not? Oh, you know what? Esmar for sure, right? Just looking to see if I can find... Nope. Not there. Right. In that case... the joy of... So. Item left in rubble. No. Left offering table. No. Found within... Nope. Okay. Found body. Not overly sure. Right. It would help if we knew where to find the information on that. Because we are currently wounded, and it would be nice to know. So, I don't think market clothing. Anything else? No. Infirmary. No, that's not it either. Okay. Well, you know what? It's a nice item to find. And I'll have a look for it in between sessions to see what I can find. In the meantime, let's go search for this hex. 3689. Okay. 68. It's going to be a few more pages. Oop. Frozen scene. A chilling mist clings to the air and trees as you stumble on through, trying to avoid the knotted roots. If you have 9 warmth or lower, lose 1 patience, because it's bloody cold and she wants to kind of push on through. That is our bonus point of patience that we gained earlier, essentially. So our additional patience is used up. You come to a frozen tree covered in frost and icicles. It seems colder than before. A moan draws your attention, and out of the white comes a frozen acolyte, her body marked with blue cuts with ice and bruising around her eyes. You must fight. After, you notice a chain wrapped around the tree. You can take it and put it in your inventory. This is a valuable metal item worth 10 copper coins. If you encounter the frozen scene again, then there is no chain this time. So that would be this particular instance of a frozen scene. So, I will explain. So far, we have encountered no permanent locations yet. If we happen to backtrack through a space we have already explored, then we have the option to re-encounter the location or pass through it. In this case, it's just saying you can't just keep coming back to get more chains, right? So, time to go look for a frozen acolyte, right? Up there. Okay. Looks a bit like a bog mummy, almost, actually, and that's oddly appropriate. So, her body is marked with blue cuts with ice and bruising around her eyes. Literally the description that was given on the random encounter table. And let us not look at whatever this thing is, because it looks very nasty and dangerous indeed. So, not that dangerous, but can take a bit of a beating. Which I suppose is what our blunt sword is for. Alright, Ellie, you're up. You know what? Let's use our second batch of stinging nettles up and actually remember to remove them this time. Here we go. Right. Ellie rolls a 3. The frozen acolyte only rolls a d4 and gets a 2, which is only 1 lower, so it rolls its reserve die and adds 1 more for a total of 3. Now, the trigger ability only counts on the initial combat die roll. Oh, it's 2d4. Oh. Ah, okay. So it hasn't rolled its reserve die. But that's a draw, so then it will roll its reserve die. Don't worry, I'm not ignoring that. So it's now got 2, 3, 5. And Chilling Touch. Gain a minor wound if you have no armor. Well, technically, our buckler counts as the arm location for some reason. Not the hand location. Even though it should really be a hand location slot. So, no minor wound as it reaches out and touches and our small wooden buckler takes the hit. There's, frost on the surface of the buckler for a briefest moment. However, it is higher now and will be wounding us for a total of 5. You know what? I will just go for a armor roll. And got a 4. Not enough. We take the minor wound. Now, because we rolled an initial 3, I am happy to take a minor wound there because the monster used up its reserve die to get that well, to get that good. We are... Where are we here? 4. Yeah. Ow. Okay. Let's fight on. It's not going to be able to roll that well again very easily. Ellie rolls a 3, not ideal, and the monster rolls a 6. Okay, that's getting serious now. That would be a major wound. We're going to use our reserve die. A 3 takes us up to a 6, which is a draw. And you know what? I could push it by adding an ability score. I'm kind of thinking I've prevented a major wound, and I would have been okay with a minor wound at this point, but we're nearly halfway to our death line, and our foe is still uninjured. Ellie is she has worked as a butcher before. We will use butchery and hope it does not betray us. So Butcher, we add 6 to our roll and get a 12. Wait a minute. Hang on, no. 3, 6. Yeah, 12 to its 6, which would be a major wound inflicted. However, our Butcher stat then increases to 7. And we roll on the Butcher consequence table, which can't be good. For our first time, let's try not to do this too often. It's a d6. Oh, this could be bad. I just saw one of the results and it was not pretty. We got a 6. Somehow in your frenzy you find an edge and break through the enemy's attack again and again, chopping as you do. Cause an extra 2 minor wounds and lose 1 charm. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah. Ellie is not subtle now. She is just savage. That loss of charm is a potential problem going forwards. Hopefully we can fix that at some point. And this is why we should not rely on pushing ability scores in combat too much. Additionally, we've used Butcher this fight, so we can't use it again. The fight continues. Ellie rolls a 3, and the Frozen Acolyte rolls a 2. Excellent. We will inflict a 3rd minor wound. The fight is now turning in our favor. Oh, wait. No. Ellie rolls a 3. And it rolls 2d4. And gets a 6. Which would be a major wound. Okay, rage. Be angry, Ellie. Feel the anger flow. And add 5 whole rage points to that 3, making it an 8. However, that means our rage will increase. This is not good. And I presume it's another d6. A 3. Did I not? I didn't mark the rage stat consequence table. I'll add a bookmark for that when I open it with the outdated version. You stumble in, a wild rage blurring your vision, and even though your attack is violent, you fail to see a low counter blow. Gain 1 minor wound and lose 1 pity. Oh. So 1 minor wound up here is bad for us. More importantly, have I miscounted? So there's our last percentile roll. Round 1. It got its big roll, and we did an obvious failed armor roll, took it result. Round 2, we got 3 to its 6. We used a bonus die to get a draw. Round 3, we got our attack. Oh, why did I roll this? Not sure. So we got 1. Yeah, okay. Oh, I rolled that for the Butcher use, which got us our big Bosch. Trying to work out if that is 4 or 5 minor wounds. I think it still has a wound left, so we fight on. And if not, it's a particularly tough Frozen Acolyte. So Eddie rolls a 3, and the Frozen Acolyte probably rolls higher with 2d4 and gets a 7. Oh dear God. Okay. Oh, you know what? We're going to use hope here. This will reduce our hope to a 4. But we will add 5 to our 3 and get an 8 and finish the fight. Which means, because it finishes the fight, we don't need to roll on the consequence table. But it does mean, however, she's feeling a bit less hopeful about the state of the world, and it's just feeling bad. With our foe defeated, we will search for body. And yeah. D12. Look, you never know. Right? You never know. A6. There's a lonely copper coin at the bottom of a pocket, or just tucked into some cloth that's wrapped around the creature. Okay, well, we've got another copper coin. And there was a chain as well. Where was it? Was it frozen scene? I think so. Let's pop back over there and find out. Yes, frozen scene. Here we go. Now, I don't know if these were... They're not arranged alphabetically, so a chain... There's no... It's not a copper chain, it's not a silver chain or anything, it's just a chain. There we go. At this point... Oh, this is where it gets tricky, right? We have our rations. We can spend a point of survival, but we don't get it back. I think I want to head back towards town. I could pass by the fallen scouts, but I will head through this hex in one last attempt to gain a quest item. 47. You never know. What's the no in the column? Is it a permanent feature? I think it is. Twisted Oak. Let's just get to the top of the table first. Come on, you. Yes, it is indeed our first permanent location. Oof. Now, let's hope it's not a really bad one. And it's a permanent one, so I'm marking it down over there as well. A large oak twists across this space. It is ancient and knotted. You look at it one way and then another, and at each turn see a gnarly face in the bark. You also spot a hole known as a heart chamber. It is large enough for you to reach into. If you do, roll on the heart chamber table. If you pass through this hex again, as long as it is a different day, you may search for heart chamber again if you spend 2 points of survival, as it is difficult to locate. So this time, we don't have to spend any survival points. Let's roll on the heart chamber table because it's rare and we don't know what we can find. It's a d6, so it's not a massive degree of variation and variability. Just for d6, a 5. There is a body of a fallen hunter here. You can search it if you wish. There seem to be no negative consequences to doing so. So let's see what the dead hunter has on him. A 5 again. You find an arrow scored marked vellum. See the marked vellum table below and some wooden pegs. Right. And since we are not overly familiar with marked vellum yet, page 106. So to use it, we can throw this into the air and an arrow bursts from the vellum and strikes at the enemy. It will inflict a minor wound unless we can roll a 6, in which case 2 minor wounds. Before you roll, you may spend 1 hatred point to increase the total by 1. But spending hatred increases... No. Using hatred in combat increases hatred. So this would actually reduce our hatred, which is interesting. Now then, with that in mind, we could continue a little further on. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We are injured. If we return to town and rest overnight, we will remove all our minor wounds. If we gain any major wounds, those are much harder to remove. We could go back to town and visit one of the townspeople and try and pick up a different quest. My gut's telling me to head back to town and rest. So that's what I think we'll do. So Ellie Calder is going to head back into town. She will rest overnight, at which point we get to... Do we group? No, we don't. Okay, fine. We can't group select. So we'll remove all of these. Except for the Twisted Oak Tree. And on the next day of her quest, she will set out again, probably exploring this area because she's explored over there, and psychologically that's more of an... she couldn't find anything that way, she'll try explore over here a bit. And I think that will happen in the next episode. We will see how she does. And there we are. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this little excursion into the forest surrounding Grimscar. And if you have, well, I'll probably put up another episode at some point in the not too distant future anyway. So, see you all next time. And don't worry, all the other regular games on the channel will be continued at some point in the very near future. And I do mean very near. Bye for now, everyone.